Rebecca Barrett began her career as a mechanical engineer and an entrepreneur. Her mantra was that she was never going to get married, never have a family, and never rely on a man. Now she has had a complete change of heart from a toxic feminist to a wife, a homemaker, and a mother. She keeps it real on her popular YouTube channel, advising young women on the dangers of this radical feminism. Well, welcome, Rebecca, to the Moms for America podcast. I am so excited to have this conversation with you.
Me too. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me today. I'm excited to deep dive into this topic, into what we're going to get into today.
All right. Well, before we start hitting this topic, can you tell me a little bit about your family, your little nest over there, and what your family looks like?
Yeah. So I'm married, and I've been with my husband going on 5 years. We've been married 3 of those years, or going on 3 years. And we have a beautiful baby girl. Her name is River Rain, and she just turned 1 year old. And I feel like my life has completely this year has been so quick. And now, I'm having baby fever again. So
yeah, watch out, husband, because when the baby fever comes, it's like baby, baby, baby. Oh, so cute. And I love her name.
Yes. Oh, I love her. She's so River. So she was actually born in water. Like we did the whole
home birth.
Yeah, the whole natural birth. And we love the name River. Every single event in our lives, like our wedding day, our engagement, the day we found out that we were pregnant, everything was raining. Like there was so much rain and water. So we were like, this is the most appropriate name, River Rain. So
I
that's
love
yeah.
that. Well, congratulations. There's nothing like it.
Thank
And
you.
that's why this conversation is going to be so interesting, because you really came from a background where looking at a family, a husband, babies, career on hold or on pause.
Yes.
I always say just on pause, because we're always in our careers, whatever that is.
Yeah.
This really wasn't the road that you had ventured out on. So in your 20s, you were basically not interested in family or babies.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I never thought I was going to have kids. I always told myself I didn't want kids or a husband, just so that I could cope with the possible reality of not having that be my outcome in life. And I told everyone else too, I actually met up with one of my best friends from childhood yesterday, and she says, it's so crazy seeing you with a baby and that you're a mom, because you've literally convinced everyone your entire life that was not your path.
Wow.
So yes, I was convincing people, but inside, I knew I wanted kids. I knew I wanted to be a wife. I just was very hurt and angry. And yeah, it took a long time to just shed away those fears.
Well, I want to talk about that, but I also want to just backtrack a bit here.
Okay.
Your own family life, right? You were raised with a mom and a dad. I mean, you were
Yes.
raised in the structure of a family. I know that your mom was very dependent on your dad. Was that a good or a bad, or was that something that did not resonate with you? Or what was the beginnings of this, I guess? Did it happen when you were young? Because I know you loved your dad, you loved your mom, you had a beautiful family.
Yeah. So I'm first generation American. Both my parents immigrated here from Brazil. So I grew up in a very traditional home life. My dad worked full time. He provided for my family, and my mom stayed at home and managed the household, took care of the kids, all of that good stuff. However, their relationship was very codependent, and they essentially needed each other to survive in life. And it was, I would say, it was healthy because I saw both of my parents together, but there was also infidelity involved in my story. And growing up and seeing that, and as a young child, and the oldest living at home, it impacted me a lot more because I was seeing my mom, cry over these
How
situations,
hurt, right?
and how hurt she was. And I said, I will be the provider. I will take care of you, because I know, and I knew at the time that, her English wasn't that well. And she just didn't have the capability of leaving if that's what she wanted to do. And so I think both of them felt stuck. But I will say, my dad passed away in January 2021, and they were by each other's side till the end. So they stuck it out and worked on their marriage and worked on their relationship. And I'm so grateful for that, because they could have easily tossed in the towel and said, let's move on with our lives. And I'm just grateful to know that they were together till the end. So
and they did love each other, obviously.
Yes, they loved each other so much.
Sorry to hear that your dad's gone.
It's okay.
So when you look at your past here, some of these things that you just mentioned made you kind of go in a different direction. You were not going to run into the homemaker. You were not looking to get married. You were not looking for children. You actually chose a pretty tough field, a male-dominated field, a male-dominated industry. And you kind of actually said that you kind of had a male energy was kind of growing within you. Let's just chat about that really quick.
Yeah. So, as a young kid, I was seeing that if I depended on a man, if I put my entire trust and energy into having a husband, this was going to be my expected outcome. Like, that's in my, adolescent brain. That's what I thought marriage would look like for everyone. And so I thought to myself, I need to be independent. I need to make my own money. I need to forge my own path. And I did just that. I was, like I said, the oldest out of my family, my mom and dad's relationship. And so I was the tomboy. I liked to tinker with, cars and things. My dad sold private jets and was a race car driver and did a lot of things with like his hands. And he showed me very young how to work with engines and stuff like that.
You know how to change your own oil, I'm sure.
I know how to do a lot of things. I'm the electrician in our home.
Oh boy.
So I decided to do mechanical engineering into college. And even in high school, I was the captain of my robotics team. So I was very nerdy. I loved working with my hands, tinkering. And so engineering was the path I wanted to take.
Sure.
And my dad and my parents, being first generation American, myself, that's a lot of the dream that a lot of immigrants have, right?
Right.
Have my kids become a doctor, engineer, something that is predictable, can make you a lot of money. And so I did just that. And I'm grateful that I have my mechanical engineering degree. I'm grateful that I have the experience under my belt.
Yeah.
But it made me a hard person. It made me think in this mindset of, this is a man's world. I have to operate like a man to be in this world. And all of that feminine, all of that, I was always a smiley, giggly person. And just growing up, I had a chip on my shoulder. I had to be hard. I have to be the strong woman. And that's what I thought was like the pinnacle of like strong, independent woman.
So kind of becoming one of the boys.
Yeah.
Male-dominated industry. You're working on oil rigs. So, I mean, so you really have to be tough to probably thrive in that type of atmosphere, right? You talked about kind of having a mask,
Mm-hmm.
and being someone, I think you just alluded to the fact too, but you really were bringing a persona of someone, almost like an alter ego a bit.
Yes. Yeah, it's crazy because I think too, with, I was the generation that grew up in front of the television, just watching TV and movies, and that very like heavy into pop culture. And so I would see I would see Superwoman and like all of these characters that was this strong female lead. And I felt like I had to embody that, right? And so Rebecca was broken. Rebecca was, didn't trust anyone, had to build up walls. But this other person, person that I became, Becca, right? Becca was this, tough. I took it on the chin. I had a chip on my shoulder. I was one of the boys. I could handle it. You couldn't offend me. And over time, I saw that facade go away, and it become much harder to maintain over time. And it got exhausting, and I just felt like I was constantly performing for everyone else. And then I would come home and just like take off my mask and have to live with Rebecca, had to live with no prospects, no love life, no one checking for me, So it was hard.
Trying to focus on a successful career, focus on being something in this world, but yet coming home to an empty life, I guess, basically, because you weren't happy.
I told people I was happy. I pretended I was happy. And that's the thing is, I had a social life. I went out. I would have friends, but they were just there. And I remember I coped a lot with drinking. I coped a lot with, alcohol, and dabbled here and there with like medications and stuff like that. So it was just what I did to kind of feel normal.
Well, Rebecca, when you're saying that, it just reminds me of the fact that we all run into certain phases like this where we're fighting against our gifts, we're fighting against our talents, we're fighting against a part in us for whatever reason, suppressing it, denying it. And being a woman, you are a nurturer, being a woman. And again, I'm not saying that everybody has to have children, has to get married. That's not the point of this discussion. The point of this discussion is that the world comes in with the ideology of feminism that unless you're just finding your career, that is how you'll find hope and joy and love. And that everything else is basically bondage. So I kind of want to go a little bit fast forward now. You go to New York, you become an entrepreneur, you become involved with a new group, and feminism is probably something you didn't know that you were adopting. But now when you get to New York, all of a sudden you are you call yourself a raging feminist. I mean, wow.
Yes. I was fully indoctrinated when I moved to New York. I was a part of every female group, the breakfasts and the conferences and you name it, I was a part of it. And especially with like female founders, we liked to stick together. That was a thing. And the narrative was always, oh, you are fighting for your seat at the table. We would read all these books, and, it was just like, I would go to marches. I would mentor younger women that were coming up, or, were transitioning from being like corporate to wanting to start their own entrepreneurial ventures. But it was always the narrative was always blame men for your problems. Like, we don't have enough funding. We don't have enough this. We don't have enough that.
We're not being respected.
Yeah. And so that was really what like when you took away the beautiful, like the beautiful events that were thrown and all of the aesthetics, that was at the root of a lot of these events that you would go to, or a lot of these conferences or meetups, or,
Okay.
and once that starts being repeated over and over and over in your brain, you start to think, yeah, I am a victim. Yeah, it is the patriarchy's fault. Yeah, it is the white man's fault. Yeah, it is because I'm a, Latina woman that is struggling to get funding. And it's not. Like, the
Right.
market doesn't care and business doesn't care what
Right.
color, age, demographic background you come from. The market cares about making money.
Mhm.
So,
And I've heard you say this in some of your podcasts on YouTube there, your videos. You said even now, how do we even think that women don't have a seat at the table? Women have a world of opportunity. So we
yes.
keep screaming that we don't have the opportunities, but women are they're doing very they're doing very successful. So
Yes.
it's kind of a crazy situation of saying you can't, but you are. You're a victim. You're the oppressed.
Hmm.
All this stuff. What are these lies that you would kind of say? You talk about 4 lies, and then I want to get into your transformation. But what were
Yes.
some of the lies that you were adopting?
Yeah. So I made a video on this, and I break down the 4 lies of feminism. There are more, but these are the
The top.
overarching, yeah, the top.
Okay.
The first one is I don't need a man, I want a man. So basically saying that, oh, I can survive, I can thrive, I can be the best version of myself, and I don't need anyone there. I don't need a man by my side. I can do this all by myself.
Okay.
Um, and that's crazy to me, because we're just seeing the decline of birth rates, and we're finally starting to address it in society.
Mhm.
And it's I won't get into that right now, but it just doesn't look good for our population, our
Right.
civilization.
Right.
And then the second lie, well, I'm not going in order, but
Okay.
another lie that I hear is career success is the pinnacle success that a
Right.
woman should strive for. It's the greatest purpose in her life. It's the only thing she should be really aspiring for.
Mm.
And I, if you're a young woman listening, you're thinking, I got to go to college. I got to get my career down. I got to do all these things, right? But we forget that,
Mm.
you know, yes, you get to that point. You climb all these corporate ladders. You get to a point where you're very successful in your career. And then what happens after, like, what happens 30 years later? Are you
Right.
still the top person in your company? No, you're 50, 60,
Right.
tired,
Or you're
overworked.
trying to claw and scratch your way and you're being replaced.
Yes.
Competitive industries kind of just,
Yes.
walk all over you. And that has nothing to do with you being a woman. That's
Yeah.
just the world.
Turnover.
Right.
Yeah. That's just how it is.
Right.
And so to say that, yeah, like if you're young right now, that's exciting, that's
Mhm.
exhilarating, that's what we want to chase. But then we disregard my biology.
Right.
Our eggs diminish over time. You don't create new eggs, right?
Right.
So you get to your late 30s and there's no man, there's no prospects of a man,
Right.
and now women are freezing their eggs. They're waiting till
So long.
later
Right.
to have children, and the IVF rates are just also abysmal. If you talk and if you like listen and watch the data, it doesn't look good for women later on to have children. It's much harder.
Right.
So
Then you
that's
become a single parent. And then you
yes.
don't have a family unit, you don't have a husband, you
Yes.
don't have a,
Hmm.
you don't have that. I don't even know how you do it without having a husband, but
Yeah.
kudos to the
It's
single moms that are doing it. But it's a tough, it's a tough a tough road, but
It's a
moms are doing
tough
it all
road.
across the country.
Oh,
But this here,
yes.
now, when you say career is a success, then actually right on the heels of that is that marriage and children are just bondage, right? They're just heavy.
Correct.
They're dead weight.
Yeah, it's like, if you're trying to strive for this amazing career, then having those
Mm,
people on the bandwagon is only going to slow you down, right? They talk about the data of women leaving the workforce to be the primary or the main caregiver. And so people get upset when they hear that, but it's a choice that that families make all across the world.
mhm.
Like, I didn't make this decision on my own, right? My husband and I had multiple conversations before I transitioned into becoming a stay-at-home mom, a full-time stay-at-home mom. And so these are decisions that couples are making together. And so it's kind of a fairy tale to think that, if you're single and you don't understand the dynamics of the marriage or of marriage, that sounds ridiculous to you. Like, oh, I'm going to put my career on hold to take care of kids. But trust me, I've heard a lot of women talk about this, and this was my exact experience. I didn't want to come back to YouTube. I didn't want to come back to podcasting. I thought I wanted to just be with my daughter full time. And that's what I did for 4 or 5 months. I just devoted my whole life to caring for her. And I was like, this is the best. Who would want to go back? And now
sometimes it's rough to go back. Yeah.
Yes. And I feel for the women that do have to go back so quickly, because I also talked to women that, it breaks their heart sending their child to daycare at 6 months, sometimes earlier than that. But some families, they have to, and I completely understand that. Right. So that's another lie. Children and family and a husband is bondage, is only going to slow you down. And then the last one that I see, and this is what's happening with a lot of our youth right now, is this sexual promiscuity. This idea that, you can have sex with whoever you want, with no consequences, with no, impairments for the rest of your life. Like, it's never going to affect you in the future. And that's a complete lie. Like, when I look at young women now teasing their OnlyFans at 17, and that's what they look forward to, the day that they can hit the button for their OnlyFans at 18, that breaks my heart, because that's what we're pushing in society, this sexualization of youth, to the point where by the time that they're in their early 20s, they have body counts of like 100, 150. And it's so sad, because what it does is it decreases that pair bonding that you're eventually going to have with, the husband that you choose
your life with.
And that, and it goes both ways for men too, but it's the threshold is much bigger.
And the heart is so much deeper with women.
Yes.
And they're always denying. They're denying that it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, everybody wants a ring and a man that would love and care for them. And there are exceptions, and there are situations that are different, but nobody just wants to have a cheating man or a cheating woman that, I mean, that gets old really quick.
It does. And I see these women that are shells of themselves, because they bought in so hard to this idea of sexual liberation and doing whatever I want. And that's their idea of feminism. Their idea of feminism is, as a woman, I can do whatever I want without society's constraints. I've heard
no
that
dependence,
as
with no connection,
definition.
with no emotion.
And it's
impossible.
It's absolutely, it's not only just impossible, it's delusional, because your brain chemistry changes. It's like, you can see brain scans of this. And, you know, it's sad to me. And so many women are bought into this sexual liberation, that they can do whatever they want with their bodies. And, you know, it's all about autonomy and whatever. And, you know, I've been getting a lot of flack on YouTube recently because I encourage women in marriages, wives, to not deny their husbands. But on the other hand, that's the thing that's getting me in trouble, right? You would think it's not very controversial to say to women, like, you shouldn't deny your husbands in marriage to the point where they are so sexually starved, right? In these sexless marriages. But on the flip side, these women that are in these, you know, in the world, in the marketplace, in the dating marketplace, they're shouting their body count numbers on the internet. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, you had a change of heart, a change of mind,
yes.
a whole transformation that took you to the road now where you are at home, married, mama, homemaker, and fully enjoying it. Let's talk about your transformation. So we know what's out there now. We know that women have bought into this. But like you, I think a lot of women are coming out of the fog and going, okay, maybe I need to look at myself. Maybe I need to kind of get my thoughts together a little bit more about what my life really looks like and what I'm denying. What was your transformation like?
Yeah, so my transformation happened over time. And I tell people it didn't happen like that. It didn't happen overnight. It happened with a slew of different events. One of them was my family member telling me that I was a miserable person at Christmas time, and then my whole family agreeing to it all at the same time. I felt like I was being punked. And that was one of the wake up calls. Then I was reading Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, and was
highly
learning.
Recommend that?
Yes,
you highly recommend that.
Highly recommend that. And with that, I was learning how to take accountability. Oh, I'm not the victim. You know, I was lying to myself all the time, and I was coping so hard at the time. And then I also stopped drinking. I stopped going out. I stopped associating myself with these people, these women that I felt were leeching off of me. I felt drained every time I hung out with these people. And when I stopped drinking alcohol, I could see clearly now. I could understand, oh no, I don't feel good when I hang out with them. That's why I drink more when I hang out with them. The pieces starting to go together.
And then this incredible man walks into your life.
Yes.
that helped, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. When I met my husband, I will say it was love at first sight for him. He literally turned to his best friend and said, I'm going to marry that woman. And he's like,
I love it.
Just met her 2.2 seconds ago. How could you know that? He's like, just watch. And yes, we are married. And
I love it.
And it's crazy because, you know, we went to St. Augustine yesterday. We had a family day, and we are so happy. And it's so much. I tell people, I'm like, intimacy grows over time. Like, we were infatuated with each other when we first met, right? The day we met, it was at an event. I was meeting a client for a possible business. He was meeting the same person after my meeting was done, and we came together, and there was an event that night. He invited me to the event, and then from the next day forward, we were inseparable. It was just like,
I heard you say that in your podcast. That was at You knew that this was going to be your person. You knew that life was going to look different. He knew that too.
Yes.
And I also, know that you went through counseling. You kind of did premarital counseling, which you highly suggest. You kind of worked through a lot of who you were, who he was,
a
and
lot of
what life was
trauma.
right. And you talked about the importance of that. So that is something I know that you suggest, but I do kind of want to now have you talk a little bit to the women that are listening now. I'd love to get some advice as we wrap this up, Rebecca. What do you say to the single women now that could be listening, maybe a mom that's sharing this with her 20-year-old daughter, about the culture and the lies that the culture is telling them? What do you say to the single young women of your generation that are in their 20s right now?
Yeah, I would say you can focus on your career. You can do all of these things. I'm not saying that getting your education is bad. I'm not saying that working on your career is a bad thing. I think that women should, right? However, we cannot neglect your biology. You cannot neglect that eventual desire to want to have a husband, right? So we need to start investing the same effort and energy that you put into your career. You need to take some of that and start, working on yourself. If that is, going to the gym, if that is become the best version of yourself for the man that you want to marry, right? And usually people, like, I met my husband at a work event. Right. So it is like, you never know. Right. And I also say we have to, as women, tap into our feminine energy again, that, that softness. A lot of women that are in these very career focused, career minded states, they are more, they're more tuned into their masculinity. So we need to start tuning the frequency to our femininity.
Very good advice.
And that softness will welcome that, that male attraction to you. Because if you are so hard and your exterior is always hard and you can't trust anyone, you're just going to be a repellent, right? You're going to repel all these men away from you. And then you're going to get to your early to mid 30s and end up like many women. And that is not my heart for young women. That is not my heart for any woman.
Right.
So,
and there is such a difference too between being a feminist and being feminine. I think that's kind of where you're going with this, is that you adopt the feminist ideology, but you actually abandon being feminine, the gifts and talents that you have as a woman. So it's a crazy mix in your brain. No wonder why it's daunting.
Yeah. And the one thing I always say too is, like, we need to, as women, we need to start taking accountability for our actions. We are not the victims of our life. We are not the victims. We are the victors in our story. So we need to start acting that way. And if we continuously say that we're the victim, if we're continuously being told that or surrounding ourselves with that, that's just going to continue to lead you down the wrong path. We need to surround ourselves with people. Like, if you eventually want to get married, the best advice I have for you is find a wife, find someone who has been married for a very long time, and sit and
let them mentor you.
Let them mentor you. Sit down with them for coffees, or say, hey, can I come over and I'll help you with the household chores? Or can you help me cook? Can I come to your home or come to my home? And, and find these women in your community, find these women that you look up to, right? When I was in my entrepreneurial phase, I was seeking out mentors that have been in business for a long time, that have built multi-million, billion-dollar industries. Why can't we apply that for things that we want in our personal life, right? If I want to be married and I want a healthy marriage, I need to know what that looks like. And if your immediate direct family isn't that example for you, you need to
Right.
search that out in other ways and be creative, right?
You're right.
And
And you're
also
right. A lot of
YouTube is a
times you
great
oh, YouTube's great. Speaking of
yeah.
YouTube, let's talk about your channel, and what advice you're giving to the moms and to this generation. Your
Yeah.
YouTube channel just like took off, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like when people I think people like to put other people in boxes. Okay. So when people say, oh, you're not a real true stay-at-home mom, you do YouTube.
Oh,
I do YouTube very part-time. Okay. I take
a
you
great YouTube channel, by the way. I'm looking
as
at it right now. I just love all the topics that you have.
the producer of this show, Pam,
Yeah,
I was like, Pam, listen, I can only do these certain days. Okay. And
right.
these certain windows of time is when I actually can shoot and record
I love
and
these
do
times.
interviews because when I'm doing YouTube, when I have that hour and a half of my daughter's sleep window, I am fully into my videos. I'm editing, I'm doing that stuff, right? When she's awake or when my family is home, I am
Right.
mom, I am wifey, I am cooking dinner. I'm not thinking about YouTube content creation,
Right.
any of that. I am full blown in mom mode. So
Yeah.
I think as moms, like, that now we live in 2023. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom, right? If you
Yeah.
want to transition into that, you have to start changing your lifestyle. You have to start making little sacrifices, right? Maybe it's not buying stuff on Amazon every day. That was something that
Oh,
I was doing.
yeah.
Maybe it's not going to Starbucks
Oh,
3 to 5 times a week, right?
right.
um, we need to start being more frugal with our time,
Right.
our
Well, life changes, right?
finances.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Um, and finding work in the home, finding things that you can do from your computer.
I mean, think about the opportunities all of us have now, right? It used to be, you used to have to leave the house to work. You don't
Yes.
have to do that anymore. I did a lot of freelance work myself too, but look at you. Look at what God has done. And look at
Yes.
this. I don't even know
Yes.
how many followers you have on your YouTube channel, but how do
Almost
people find?
100,000.
Oh, just 100,000. Can you tell us about the YouTube? How do they find you on YouTube, Rebecca, so they can listen to some of these? I can't even go through the videos because the topics are like killer.
Thanks.
What's the name of your YouTube channel?
It's just my name, Rebecca Barrett. I think if you just click Rebecca Barrett, I'm one of the first ones to pop up. I'm almost at 100,000 subscribers. It's crazy to me. It's crazy because I didn't think that would be my life. I was just making videos because I wanted to, and my husband encouraged me to do it. And he still encourages me to do it all the time. He's like, you love it. That's a part of your purpose too. And like, you should do that, And so,
You've got a lot to offer.
you can find me there. Sometimes I get in trouble on YouTube. Sometimes I get in trouble on Instagram. And I have some hot takes. So if you have
you
a
sure
little
do.
thick skin,
Yeah.
come over.
And you talking about toxic feminism and how it sold the
Yes.
bill of goods to young women, and how you're pulling back the curtain and
Yes.
exposing. Just talk about all of those challenges, and
Mhm.
even the challenges that you face of being a wife
Yes.
and being in a relationship. All these things, people are going crazy over your videos. And here's what's the truth: they're amazing. I mean, you're
Thank
really
you.
taking on the tough topics in a culture that just doesn't really want to talk about these things.
Mhm.
And I appreciate it that you
Thanks.
are so real. You're real.
I-
You're so real.
Well, and like you said, it's about playing into your gifts, right? One of my gifts is this. Like, I don't know how I do it. It's just, I have that ability. You have that ability. That might not be your gift, right? You got to
Right.
find and tap into what you love to do. If it's creating, if it's, DIYing, if it's thrifting, if it's whatever it is, you just got to find that and double down. And for some reason, God gave me this ability to connect with people through a camera. And I'm super grateful. And I'm grateful that I do have this platform that women, you know, it's hard sometimes because I get a lot of hate. And I get a lot of hate. A lot. But I get those messages from women that says, thank you for helping me through this because I was going through the same exact thing, or you have my story. We have the same exact story. Thank you so much for helping me through this or sharing your story. And that's what it's all about. And, you know, and hopefully this podcast can do that and shed some light. And I always say it's for women who want to see the other side, right? It's not like if you are completely content, you never want to get married, you never want to have children, you know, or you want to focus on your career, do that. Do that, but understand that everything in life has consequences, whether that's good or bad. And that's a lot of the anchoring themes of my YouTube channel and what I say on social media is that we have the ability to choose. We have the ability. It's in our control, right? In some capacity. God's in control.
God's in control, but
in these little things that we do, these decisions that we take, we can either choose to make decisions based off of our flesh and what we desire in that moment, right? Or we can think with some foresight and some longevity and say, if I make this decision today, how is this going to affect me in the long term?
What is life looking like,
And if we can start as women thinking about these long-term decisions that we're taking and what we're doing in the immediate right now and how that plays into the future, I think the decisions that we make will be a lot different than the decisions that we're making right now, you know?
And I think this is exactly how I want to close this podcast with you. On that note, think about where we're going. Think about your gifts, your talents, who you are, your relationships, the opportunity of having a child and a family. Think about that. Don't deny it. Think about it and see what God has in store. You may have a man walk right into your business and say, I'm going to marry you. Now that may not happen all across the board, but we just are always looking to see what God has for us. And the other thing is for the moms that are listening, you may have a daughter that's, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, in her 20s. This podcast is perfect for them because this is what they're being told. If you're a mom and you're in a situation and you're battling with home and career, this is perfect for you. Go to Rebecca's YouTube page and think about it, pray about it, see what God has in store for you, just like Rebecca did.